All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay. My name is Teemer. I'm a second semester senior at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. My fellow LMRCSC people are in the crowd. I'll be telling you a little bit today about the spatial data compilation for anadromous fishes protected under the Endangered Species Act. Like this project, there's a lot of words, a lot of book work, so I'm going to try to go through it fast for you guys. Anybody in the audience tell me what anadromous is?
When you can't tell the
Anadromous in this case.
Oh no, sorry, the migration up into rivers.
Yes. There's no test for this, but it's good to know. If you want to remember, cats don't like water, so they spawn. So first and foremost, how does the work that I did over the summer, last summer, reflect the NOAA and Office of Protected Resources mission? First and foremost, we serve the conservation and management of coastal and marine ecosystems and resources, one of the big ones, and sharing knowledge and information with others. It's a little bit against their will, but you know, within the Office of Protected Resources, we also serve to make sure that other agencies don't adversely affect environments. That's one of the core principles of NOAA itself. And through interagency consultations, we provide guidelines and information for preventing such action. So, what is the Endangered Species Act? The Endangered Species Act is a long, long list, and as of 1973, has 18 individual sections. It is upheld by the Department of Interior and the Department of Commerce, where Department of Commerce and NOAA and the National Marine Fisheries Service, NIMS, and the OPR, as well as the Fish and Wildlife Service. We kind of split it 50-50 on the freshwater versus marine and anadromous fish, terrestrial species, and so on and so forth. So our uses specifically out of the long list, we go for section 4, which deals with the listing and recovery. So as the designation of critical habitats to the ESA doesn't just protect endangered species, the endangered defense species, but it also protects a number of plants and just critical habitats. So if you see critical habitat pop up in a lot of papers, talk about the ESA, and that's what protects them. This also goes into recovery plans, listing endangered species. And then we have section 7 through 9, which deal with interagency consultations, which is what I assisted with, international cooperation agreements, and protection provided by the Endangered Species Act. So with section 4 particularly, we're looking at how this applies to section 7. So section 7 consultations are those interagency consultations in which we try to make sure that people don't mess up wherever they are. I particularly worked on gathering species information based on range data, stuff listed inside the ESA and by NIMS itself, as well as documentation from just previous publications. So it was half looking through seeing what NIMS has and half doing my own book work, sometimes literally book work, and research. So a lot of dangers that are to these species have to do with things that threaten or anything that adversely affects individual or overall population growth, cover or shelter. Shelter is one of those big 3 important ones. Food, water, minerals, or other functional requirements, and then locations for breeding, hatching, or germinating. This extends a bit further into, interestingly, the psychological health of the animals. We don't want to, say, accidentally make a horse species extra skittish because we're doing a lot of activities in a certain place that leads to behavioral changes. I believe Savannah State did a lot of work looking at how dolphins are beginning to exhibit feeding and begging behaviors, pushing up baby dolphins to the surface. We don't want to do that. We don't want to encourage anything similar. And then moving on to the 5-year review. So the Endangered Species Act has to be updated. The Endangered Species Act list of protected entities has to be updated every 5 years. This will be in the form of a large review produced by the Office of Protected Resources, and this will go over things like, hey, these are how the species are doing. This is what they were at this point. This is what they were at this point. And how we will say either we take something off the list, we put something onto the list, it goes from endangered to threatened, threat to endangered, or if it needs to have its status change in any other way. And then there's the creation of recovery plans, which is where we actually got a lot of our information. So this is Puget Sound steelhead. There's one of the species that I worked on. There was a long list of them, and I just started at the top, went as far as I could, I guess, in the time allotted. But recovery plans will be a description of the location and what's called an evolutionary specific unit, ESU, or word soup. but it'll give the prerequisites for a healthy state of a given species, and we'll try our best to adhere to that. Then there are the actual consultations, the consultation part of the ESA in sections 4, 7 through 9, where a given action agency, which would be the people who are trying to do a given thing, whether it's a ship rescue or they want to put out a sail drone or something or other, they'll go through the OPR, we'll begin consultation, and then we would put forth a list of things like, okay, these species live here, these species have the potential to be adversely affected by this, that, and the other circumstances. So say it's something like sound, right? They want to do a turtle beaching recovery action. We would go in and we'd have the consultation. We'd say, okay, well, how are you going to get there? Oh, you're going to drive there. Okay, we have to factor in pollution, disruption of sediments and sand. Then, okay, oh, you want to go out into the water. Okay, so you have a boat. So that includes noise. That includes potential changes in heat. That includes the potential for vessel strikes, which there always is when you develop a boat. And that's what we basically have to go through. So the action agency will bring to us, and this could be any agency or line office, they'll bring to us an action area, a defined border of where they want to do a given thing. We'll, clarify the intended action, define the area, we'll obtain a list of relevant species and or critical habitats. So that's primarily what I worked on. That's where I fit into the whole scheme. Determine if the species or critical habitat is actually present. And then, yes, we'll determine relevant stressors. No, we'll just complete the documentation designed as no effect. Continuing through, if stressors are present, then, we go forth, we say, hey, is exposure likely? You can't include sound as a stressor if the species cannot hear. So we have to go through and do all of this. As is an adverse response to the stressor likely? Yes or no? And then we can find our last couple of in steps, which will be determination likely to adversely affect or determination not likely to adversely affect. So I was a part of the mapping team, but our tasks were to basically combine a lot of information. So our primary sources, aside from actual books, included National Marine Fisheries Service information, World Register of Marine Species, Ocean Biodiversity Information Systems, Global Biodiversity Information Facility, and other agencies. And we created range summary drafts. So this is the gathering of distinct population segments or DPS boundaries, listing of species, entities, or DPSs, collection of recovery plans reviews, and completion of summary of aquatic range. And this can be applied to the 5-year reviews that I talked about previously, Section 7 consultation to speed up that entire consultation process. And we hope to in the future create a mapper that'll have all this information present. So say your line office wants to do something, they just go in, say, hey, we want to do it in this area. And hey, right there on an online map is everything involved in that area. Which species are there and how might you get that? Thank you all for your time.
That's time for a few questions for Teemer.
I have a question. I'm from Hawaii, and we have the monk seal, and it's an endangered species.
Yes.
Yeah, so like NOAA was running around trying to close down beaches, and then native people like me wouldn't be able to go there and fish. So it changed like the function and kind of what we do there for our communities. So how do you guys deal with that,
Unfortunately, we want the ability to do more, but we, specifically my group in the Office of Protected Resources, we only worked with interagency consultations. So there can easily be a state agency running around telling people what they can and cannot do. I remember there being a problem in Hawaii about people trying to secure farmland that was historical land, and then it was either being taken or cut off from actual use. And we unfortunately don't have the power to intrude in that.
Oh no, it's okay. They got the whole monument up there.
Anyone else?
So regarding finding like life history parameters or I guess biological parameters for these fish species, did you ever use fish base or sea life base?
I did use fish base. Oh. Yeah. Fish base was a cool one. They give you like citations from the 1800s. You have to go back and read the actual thing. I swear I saw one. Yes, in the back.
Yeah, great presentation, Barry. I really love it. And I'm super happy to see you again. And so my question is, I know this is a hard thing to account for, but when considering these migratory patterns, like how would you hypothesize, like how would you take into account like regime shifts or different migratory distribution changes like over a period of time? Like,
yeah, so we had to do, there are two different kind of files that we ended up with. One that is relevant, so that is the last 10 years, and then one that is historic. So for instance, with steelhead trout, we saw there was some sighting over in Russia. So it would go up the Pacific and then cross over by Alaska. We actually talked to some Alaskan fisheries people and they were like, oh, you ever seen in Russia? So we had to adapt, we had to cut out, I was using ArcPro, QGIS and something else. And we manually cut out where they were to say where they are. And then all of that factors into the 5-year plans, right? Because if the migration pattern shifts from like over here to all the way over here, that's an important thing to do because that also could show a change in actual population size, which may take it from endangered to threatened beyond.
Okay. Great, thank you.